I want to be very brief and say a little bit about the Barcelona Declaration, especially because this is a public webinar and not everyone attending might be as familiar. So I just want to set the scene so we're all on the same page. Barbara, can I have the next slide? Oh, yes. So what I mostly want to convey is what we mean when we talk about research information. We're talking about metadata, bibliographic metadata, so information about the conduct and the reporting of research. So that's bibliographic metadata, authors, affiliation, journals, article titles, including funding information and also information on use and impact. So it's not about research data sets, but it's really about metadata. And this is information on the next slide that's included in bibliographic databases, data repositories, software archive, institutional repositories, quiz systems, etc. So both in institutional systems as in bibliographic databases outside institutions that are being used to look up research information, information about the output and conduct of research. And why do we feel it's important that this information is open? Because this information is being used to assess researchers and institutions. And if that is done based on non-transparent evidence in closed systems, then that's not really transparent. And we feel that fair assessments requires full transparency. Also, when decisions are made based on research allocation or to assess the effect of funding policies, and that is done based on biased information, which is often information biased against less privileged languages, geographical regions outside the global north, research agendas outside of STEM research, then that is not really equitable decision making. And we feel that equitable decision making requires inclusive data. And finally, when we're talking about monitoring and incentivizing open science, and we use closed data to do it, that's really a contradiction. And we would say that open science requires open research information. Can I have the next slide, please? Also, what it means for researchers, what it means for researchers at your institution. It's really about where information about their research output and activities is located. Who around the world can find and use that information about their research outputs? And what type of research output and impact are used in assessment and evaluation? And how open and transparent that research assessment and the information on which it's based is. And then finally, there are really important questions about who owns and controls research information and whether that is actually in the control of the public institutions or we are outsourcing that to commercial closed databases. So these are also really relevant questions for researchers at your institutions. Next slide. So what does the Barcelona Declaration do to further this transition towards open research information? We're really asking for universities, research institutions, research funders to commit to 4 things. On the next slide. The first one is to make openness the default for research information that's being used and produced within your institution. The second one is to work with services and systems that support and enable open research information. The third is to also support those infrastructures for open research information, both financially and also by taking part in governance and by taking part in increasing quality of the information. And then finally, there's a commitment to work together on this. So a commitment for collective action. And I hope that today we will see very nice examples of institutions actually taking steps in that direction, showing what this can mean in practice. Very briefly, we currently have over 125 organizations in 31 countries that signed the declaration, and also 55 organizations representing data service and infrastructure providers that are supporting the declaration. And there's an example of a subset of those on the next slide, just to show you the width and breadth of what's currently already available in terms of service providers and infrastructure that make the transition to open research information possible. Next slide. At the Barcelona Declaration, we want to support change at the technical, operational, and strategic levels by facilitating and supporting collective action, and also disseminating and outreach activities to expand the reach and impact, and to really spread the word about why this is important and what can be done about it. And very briefly, those collective actions, for that we've got 7 working groups that are dealing with specific types of metadata, but also more overarching topics like replacing closed systems. What's involved for institutions if they want to move from closed databases to open databases. And today this webinar is organized by that working group, Replacing Closed Systems, to give you concrete examples of what organizations are doing in that respect. Next one. And in addition to the working groups, we also have national networks where organizations within a certain country or within a language area work together also to share good experiences and facilitate this transition. And I think this is a very good point to hand over to Mark from Helmholtz to say a little bit more about their involvement in this transition.
Thank you, Bianca, and thank you also, Barbara, for these kind introductions also to today's seminar and also about the Barcelona Declaration. As this is a collaborative event and also our 71st Helmholtz Open Science Online Seminar at the same time, I wanted to welcome you all to the event as well and introduce Helmholtz and the Helmholtz Open Science real quick. Also joining here in the participants are my colleagues Matthias and my colleague Lea Maria Ferguson, who are with me, and we together work on the topic of open research information, mostly in the context of research assessment. And briefly on the Helmholtz Association, it's the largest research organization in Germany. The next slide, please. Thank you. Yeah, so the Helmholtz Association is the largest research organization in Germany. It's got more than 46,000 employees that work together in 18 centers across 6 research fields. And it's mostly large-scale research facilities and infrastructure with a budget of over 6 billion euros. And here you have a couple of illustrations, and maybe you've heard about these projects. Next slide, please. So at the Helmholtz Open Science Office, it's our main mission is to advance open science at Helmholtz and beyond. And we support the Helmholtz Association in the cultural change from closed to open. And we try to promote dialogue. We cooperate with the 18 Helmholtz centers in open science working groups and also in joint task groups. And by that, we try to deliver a central contribution to the digital transformation as well. And we also represent the Helmholtz Association in open science activities and initiatives on a national and international level. And a good example is the Barcelona Declaration. So on the next slide, you will see our core topics. Those are 4, and as we position open research information in the context of research assessment, I made this bubble the biggest. And in research assessment, we have 3 main topics, which are quality-based indicators, where we have a working group on, and which is a very important topic for us. We work on evaluation criteria and processes. And the third topic in research assessment is open research information. And in the research assessment, we also work in the task groups I mentioned, and we are active in a Alliance of Science Organizations, which is an organization in Germany that collects the most important and biggest science organizations. And also in that, we work on the Barcelona Declaration on open research information in different working groups, for example. And we also are a member of the Coalition for Advancing Research Assessment, and we are currently heading the COARA National Chapter Germany. One important instrument is our Helmholtz Open Science Policy, which was adopted in 2022. And yeah, just briefly on that. Next slide, please. So as I said, this is a Helmholtz Open Science seminar as well. We've had these seminars since on various topics related to open science since 2012. And actually, I looked it up. The first seminar was on the topic of persistent identifiers. So in a sense, we began the seminars with something closely related to open research information. And more recent examples are our Helmholtz Open seminar on a presentation of OpenAlex shortly after its launch in 2022. And we published a fact sheet on that. And also our 65th online seminar, which was on open research information for responsible research assessment. So other topics may be open hardware, science tracking, or as I said, Quora. Yeah, I'll post a link in the chat and you can find more on that there. So the next slide, please. The reasons for making open research information the norm and hence supporting and signing the Barcelona Declaration are plenty. And here are just three which align perfectly with our perspective at Helmholtz on open research information, which is research assessment. And having said that, I have to note that the Helmholtz Association and the Helmholtz Centers are as of yet not signatories of the Barcelona Declaration. However, the declaration and the and open research information are topics of ongoing activities and discussions. And via us, the Helmholtz Open Science Office, we are also active participants in the Barcelona Declaration's activities and its community. So I think that is a good example and also living proof that as an institution, you can already be part of the Barcelona Declaration along the way in the process of signing the Barcelona Declaration. Next slide, please. Here we can see the 7 working groups of the Barcelona Declaration, and we are currently active in 3 of them, that being also working group number 4, replacing closed systems, which is the one having organized today's webinar. And then we're also active in the working group sustaining infrastructures and evidence of benefits. And we currently coordinate a national network of the German-speaking countries, which you can see on the next slide. There are currently 3 national networks in the German-speaking countries. We call them the DACH countries. This is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, and we from the Helmholtz Open Science Office are currently coordinating that. Then there's also 2 more in the Netherlands and in Italy, and more on that later. And then the next and last slide is just an information to further the discussions on open research information in the Helmholtz Association and with the representatives of the Helmholtz centers. We hold a open science forum on open research information in April. The Open Science Forum or the fora are in Helmholtz internal events for information exchange and discussions. And there we discussed the state of open research information within Helmholtz, and we saw presentations of the Barcelona Declaration. Bianca was present and presented the Barcelona Declaration, for example. We saw one of the centers giving examples how they treat open research information, and there were discussions of use cases and so on. If you want to have a look, we openly published a report on this forum, and I'll also post a link in the chat shortly. And with that, I thank you from my side, and I will hand over to Ignasi, who will introduce our speakers of today.
Hello everyone. My name is Ignasi Labastida. I'm from the University of Barcelona, and I am one of the co-chairs of this working group of the Barcelona Declaration. As said before by Barbara, we will have now 4 speakers that they will share 4 different case studies. We have tried to bring different perspectives, different situations, and also different from different places, not just in Europe. We also have Gabriel from Colombia to hear his experience from Latin America. As said by Barbara, we will aim at having a Q&A session after the 4 presentations. So please use the Q&A section to place all your questions, and later we will address them. So I will start with Matthias Goeritz from the Leibniz Association. Matthias has been in that association since 2012. He has a master's degree in digital data management and is working in the project Strengthening CRIS in the Institutes of the Leibniz Association. With this project, he is encouraging and supporting the establishment and the use of CRIS and these practices of openly sharing research information in accordance to the Barcelona Declaration. Matthias, please, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm going to say a few words today about our initiative Strengthening CRIS in the Institutes of the Leibniz Association, whereas CRIS, of course, stands for Current Research Information Systems. This initiative consists of Philipp Steglich, Gregor Prinzensing, and myself at the Leibniz Association headquarters. And yeah, I could talk about this for a very long time, but for today I will keep it brief. First of all, let's talk about the Leibniz Association for a second, so you can understand the background of this initiative. The Leibniz Association is one of the big research organizations in Germany. In some ways, it is comparable to the Helmholtz to Helmholtz, which we just heard about. In some ways, it's a bit different, but yeah, these are both big research organizations. The Leibniz Association had a lot of institutes, 96 institutes at the moment, and there can be a lot of differences between these institutes. There are a lot of research institutes, but also there are dedicated infrastructure facilities and research museums. So there are some differences there. So yes, the Leibniz Association is very big and very diverse. That's really the thing to take away from this slide. And here's also a little overview about the institutes and where they are in Germany. As you can see, this map of Germany, there are a lot of little dots all over it, and they are part of 5 different sections, which, well, these are like the thematic focuses. And as you can see, there are all kinds of different scientific topics. There are the humanities, there are economic, social sciences, life sciences, mathematics, environmental research. So as I said, there's a lot of diversity within the Leibniz Association. Now about our initiative, Strengthening CRIS. This initiative supports the Leibniz Institutes in introducing and further developing current research information systems, so CRIS, and most of all in establishing and expanding the relevant skills necessary for the use of CRIS. This initiative had a duration of 3 years. It's actually going to end at the end of this month, at the end of December 25. And well, the focus is that Leibniz institutes that do not currently use an integrated CRIS should receive support in the selection process, in the process of introducing a CRIS, and in further competence building. And but also institutes that already use CRIS receive support in this area of competence building and further development. So we are focusing in particular on strengthening and supporting the Leibniz CRIS community, as well as open research information and open source CRIS, which brings me to the topic of this workshop today. There were essentially 2 phases to the initiative Strengthening CRIS. As I said, it began in November 2, and since November 24, we are in the 2nd phase, which explicitly focuses on the support of open source CRIS and open research information. Here's also a little bit about the background. We had noticed that not too many Leibniz institutes were using CRIS. As of January 2023, it was about 25%, a little less, 23 Leibniz institutes. And there had been a certain stagnation since 2021. And well, that was the reason that the executive board of the Leibniz Association decided to fund the initiative as a strategic measure for 3 years. We had a total sum of about 500,000 euros. which really is not a lot of money considering there's 96 Leibniz institutes and we have to support them all. And as I said, there are 3 people involved with this initiative at the Leibniz headquarters, but all of us together, we are less than 1 full position. So we are not even, if you take all of us together, we're not even 100% position. So we're working with a limited budget, but I think we've done some very good things for the Leibniz Association. And this is also still part of the background, like why were we focusing on these topics, open research information and open source CRIS in the second phase of the initiative? That one of the reasons was that we had some surveys among our institutes, and we discovered that the use of open source CRIS leads to more satisfaction with the general CRIS situation. Here, like if you look at this graphic, 5.0 would be perfect satisfaction with the CRIS situation, and 1.0 is the worst situation possible. And as we can see, the satisfaction rises if you're using CRIS at all. With proprietary CRIS, it's already at 3.8 among the Leibniz institutes, but the ones that were using open source CRIS had by far the highest values with 4.7 there. And because of this, we wanted to put a specific emphasis on open source CRIS, but also, of course, as a general strategic decision, in the interest of open science and the interest of digital sovereignty. And yeah, these were important strategic topics of the Leibniz Association and still are. And of course, the Leibniz Association also signed the Barcelona Declaration in 2024, as well as 3 Leibniz institutes that actually did before the Leibniz Association as a whole, namely the TIP, the ZPIT, and the FITSK. These are all, these are 3 of our institutes that signed, and then the association in total signed as well. Now, what were we doing in our initiative? How were we supporting the Leibniz institutes? There were a lot of activities. Very important, we had 23 online workshops and 3 CRIS days in person, where the Leibniz CRIS community came together to share experiences and to help each other. We also offered financial incentives for both for external CRIS consultancy services. So if Leibniz institutes went to get some consultancy services, they could get some money back for that, but also specifically for the implementation of the open source current research information systems, Vivo, GRIS, or Osiris. We documented everything and shared a lot of information on our wiki. And of course, the Barcelona Declaration was signed, and we did a lot of national and international networking within Germany, but also with Eurocris and the Barcelona Declaration and the community. And generally, based on feedback we received through surveys from the Leibniz Association, from the institutes, there's been a lot of progress, and the initiative has been very well received. So what was the implementation process? One of the most important things to know about the Leibniz Association is that the 96 institutes, they're all independent. So this does not allow for maybe a traditional or pure top-down process. So at its core, the initiative Strengthening CRIS has always been a bottom-up process, but the Leibniz Association's headquarters offers coordination and support, which is very important for these processes to receive. So as I said, we were focusing on supporting the Leibniz CRIS community, developing competencies, and offering incentives with our stakeholders being all the institutes, but also the bodies and committees of the Leibniz Association. What are our successes? As of January 23, from January 23 until the end of 25, we will have a much larger amount of Leibniz institutes that are using or currently at least acquiring or implementing CRIS. We went from 23 to presumably 55. The number is not final yet, but that's what we've been hearing so far. The community generally is strengthened. There's been more of an exchange of experience. This is a little hard to measure, of course, but this is also what we've gathered from all the feedback we received. There's higher competencies within the Leibniz institutes. And as I said, there was an incentive to implement open source CRIS, and 13 Leibniz institutes have applied for this. So there are a lot more open source CRIS users in the Leibniz Association now. And also open research information is strengthened as a strategic Leibniz topic, as many of our workshops have dealt with this. And the last CRIS days, which happened at the end of September, at the start of October, there were 2 days. They had open research information specifically as the main topic. Lessons learned. Well, of course, there are always a lot of lessons to be learned from these projects. I think one of the most important one is the one in the middle, that community building and development of competencies are really of utmost importance for sustainable and long-term improvements. There are other things that are important, of course, but like having this community, having this exchange of experience and people supporting each other, that's really what's going to get the most progress, what's going to generate the most positive effects. The time-limited incentives can generate activity. That was, for example, the incentives we have with the open source CRIS, which also worked very well. But as I said, for the long-term improvements, I think this development of competencies was even more important. It's also important that projects do not stand alone, but instead are embedded into larger strategic contexts. For example, the strategic context of open research information in general, like like heading towards open research information in the Leibniz Association as a whole. And yeah, of course, speaking to national and international communities, orientation towards international developments and standards. But of course, it's also important to keep in mind that change takes time. As of yet, not that many Leibniz institutes have signed the Barcelona Declaration. We would like for there to be more Leibniz institutes to do that. And I think there will be more in the future, but this is a long-term process, and it requires a lot of change management also within the institutes. So it's important to keep these projects, these topics going. Now, this is my last slide. Just one more thing we've learned, obstacles to cooperation as far as open research information goes. There can be misunderstandings or lack of cooperation, for example, between institutes and an overarching community or an organization. Can also be certain problems between the working level and the management level, or the administrative staff and the scientific staff. So all of these should be kept in mind and should try to overcome these when dealing with open research information, trying to make research information more open. So yes, I think this is the end of my time. I believe that was 10 minutes, maybe a little more. Thank you very much for your time. And yes, thank you once again for the opportunity to speak here today.
Thank you very much, Matthias. We already have some questions for you, and we will address at the end of the 4 cases, but you can also look at the question already in the Q&A, and I invite, of course, any participant to post new questions. We will move on from Germany to Italy, and we have now Paola Galimberti from the University of Milan. Paola Galimberti has many responsibilities at the University of Milan. I will mention some of them. She manages the repositories, both publications and research data. She's also responsible of the Diamond University Press and the Open Science training programs. Her division also supports internal and external evaluation, and she is also engaged in many organizations, nodes, and activities. She is representing the University of Milano at the Italian Node of Operas. She is in the LERU Information on Open Access Policy Group, in the COARA National Chapter in Italy, and also involved in Open Science Task in her University Alliance. Please, Paola, the floor is yours.
It's a pleasure for me to present the case of the University of Milan. It is important to give you the context of research information in Italy. We have a performance-based evaluation system that relies on bibliometric indicators, and these bibliometric indicators are from proprietary sources, Scopus and Web of Science. In order to get your national habilitation, you have to reach some thresholds, and these thresholds are calculated using proprietary sources. This is the national context. Then we have a local context. The University of Milan is a multidisciplinary university where the humanities and social sciences are well represented, but they are not properly represented in proprietary databases, in Scopus and in Web of Science. So we have this situation. The state of the art is that we cannot do without bibliometric indicators from proprietary sources, because we have to provide information to support our researcher on their positioning in relation to the national target that they have to reach and to the national benchmarks. But since 2023, the university has acknowledged that proprietary tools are insufficient. They are not sufficiently accurate to cover our research activities, to describe our research activities. So we have started to use only open information for strategic planning, for taking strategic decisions, for monitoring research activities. In the annual report of our evaluation board, or in the report about research activities, we use only open sources. And we explain this use in the forward to this report. We are also a producer of open data. We have an institutional repository, and data relating to our publication are sent to OpenAir, and they are published as open data in the open data portal of our region. We are also supplier of data for the project OpenAPC since 2016. So we send yearly our data on APC to this portal. The University of Milan is also a reuser of open data. We have a public dashboard in the OpenAir monitor. We built a dashboard on the collaboration of the University of Milan using OpenAlex data. You can see here the screenshot of the monitor of OpenAir and the screenshot of the dashboard on collaboration of our institution, of our departments, and of our researchers with the rest of the world. A small focus on this collaboration dashboard. Our aim was to register, to track the collaboration of our university and of our departments and researchers in order to identify existing network and also to understand their impact. We started to work with OpenAlex, matching ORCID IDs of our researchers, and then we proceeded through manual data cleaning and association of researchers and departments, so that we have a reliable picture of our university and the different departments. Data in this dashboard, data can be filtered according to a series of dimensions, for example, sustainable development goals, or the type of open access or topics. And you can filter per department or per researcher. Results were tested with our researchers and with departments. We offer courses every 2 months on the use of this dashboard, on the use of OpenAlex, and from January 2026, we will also offer course on the use of OpenAir and of the OpenAir dashboard and OpenAir data. And this is interesting because we use for our reports the data of OpenAir, and in particular we compared the fairness using data from OpenAir. We compared the fairness of data from Zenodo and from our Dataverse repository. And this was very interesting because we could compare and we could identify differences between researchers who received the training for data management and fair data management, and researchers who didn't receive this training. And the report is visible in Zenodo. What are the lessons learned? It is really very difficult to change mechanisms and habits that have been in place for many years. And producing changes is about guiding researchers and administrative staff and support staff, and encouraging them to change the point of views, to develop a new way of thinking about data, new way of use data on research for research evaluation. So it is important to work simultaneously on different levels and with different tools. Yes, it is not a revolution. Change is a process, is slow, is very slow, and must be accompanied by constant and appropriate support and training by the university. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Paola, for sharing your experience from Milano. And there are already some questions. One of them already has been addressed by Matthias, but please just share any questions. And as I said, at the end, we will address all. And now we will move on a bit more south. We'll go to Colombia. We have with us Gabriel Vélez. Thank you, Gabriel, for joining us from the University of Antioquia in Colombia. Gabriel is a full professor in the Department of Sociology, and he is coordinating the COLAF and the director of Impact U. He will explain us what are these two organizations. Is currently developing a research program on research evaluation, open science, and computational approaches for handling large volumes of information for scientific assessment. And this Impact U is a CRIS-type platform. And please, Gabriel, can you share with us your experience?
Thank you, Ignasi. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you to all the organizers of this event. We are very honored. It's always very honored to talk about our experience out of our region. And thank you very much to invite us here. Well, I'm going to share my presentation. And well, first, we are Impact 2. We say without you, U, in Spanish, Impact 2. Impact 2 is a platform that we have, more than a platform, it's a laboratory that we have between four universities in Colombia and the Colombian National Association of Universities. Impact 2 born 10 years ago, I think, but we actually launched the platform last year, and we are working on this. First of all, I want to show you the platform, and not only the platform, all the platforms that we have. We are a laboratory. This is our platform for Colombia. This is all the research information that we have in Colombia. I think that is the most robust system that we have. You can see that we have many different entities, affiliations, persons, research sources, and open access products. For the products that we have are almost 2,300,000 products for Colombia. I'm going to compare this with other databases that we have or other commercial databases. I think well, we can look for information about all these entities that I showed you, and we have other platforms. I can show you all the platform, but you have a context. We have a repositories in an organization in GitHub, and this organization has 30 repositories of software. We developed the software in-house because we need to retrieve information that we can do it with other softwares. Then, for example, we retrieve institutional information from Colombia, and they have some characteristics very specific that we need to retrieve. And to combine these databases with all the open databases, global databases, we need to make some specifications in these softwares. Then we have softwares for visualizations and other kind of. All this software is open and is reproducible, and is you can make this system in your institutions or in your country, or make a replica in any context. Then we have an API page with all the information available in JSON, basically, and you can retrieve all this information to make analysis in your institutions. In Colombia, I mean. Well, those are our platforms. Those are built by these organizations but the beginning of this was our collaboratory at the University of Antioquia. Our collaboratory is special because it's a kind of mix between managerial personnel in the University of Antioquia and researchers. And in this combination, we are working to try to build a better system of assessment and evaluation, and to try to have all the information that we need to make decisions. Well, the questions that Barbara shared with us, governance and motivation, we have three different instances. I'm going to talk about those three and the motivations that we have initially. First, the problems in research management may be similar to the experience of the University of Milan. The Web of Science and Scopus databases doesn't respond or answer all the problems that we have to make decisions. For example, one of the main indicators of our development of research in our university was the number of citations in Scopus, no more. We don't have any other indicators. And this is a very strong matter, an issue, I think. That's because the questions that the organizations out of the university, make to the universities request about research information that serves or be useful to governmental organizations, companies, NGOs, etc. Or maybe to try to participate in different rankings. We need information to share with those rankings, or institutional performance, accreditation, and qualified registry reports. Those are documents that our ministry says that the university had to fill out to accredite all the education processes and research. Other problems, fragmentation of information across different databases. I think that this is a very common problem, an issue for our universities, not only in Latin America. Limited data that doesn't answer the questions. For example, all the information that come from commercial databases is not enough because in our research system it's important other kind of products as public divulgation of science, social appropriation of knowledge, and many other different kind of products. Decision making without evidence, high database cost. This is crucial for us because all the modules that have pure or insights or other kind of software, commercial software, it's very costful for us in Latin America and mostly impossible to access to these kind of commercial databases. Guidance to researchers in proposal formulation, consulting services, and national state-of-the-art reviews, for example. Not only the information that we have in commercial databases. Then our universities, the Universidad del Valle, Universidad Autónoma Latinoamericana, Universidad Externado de Colombia, and the University of Antioquia, of course, we begin a community building solution. This community building solution is to make a current research information system, not only for our universities, but for all universities in Colombia. It's the same to make a research system for our 4 universities to all universities in Colombia. We think is almost the same cost that we have to pay. We make all these efforts with the universities. We develop agile methods from the engineer systems, and one of the main tools that we have is user story, a method that we use to try to recover all the needs and the problems that our universities has with the information. This is a very important process for us because it's our tool for participation and to try to build solutions made tailored to the universities. The other instance is ASCUN, other of our associates, the Colombian Association of Universities. They help us with the community support. We are building a national alliance with the university, with all the universities in Colombia. We began this process 2 months ago, approximately, but we have some universities that are interested in being part of the community and support all the efforts that we are doing with this current research information system for Colombia. Then the other instance that we have is the Collaboratory of Computational Social Sciences. I told you that we begin with this project at the University of Antioquia, and we have been working for the 15 last years in community-based metrics and open science, basically. We participate in different spaces in Latin America, now in the Declaration of Barcelona, and we make software open source. We have repositories open to the community, and we have been working on as I told you, community-based metrics, trying to change all these metrics based in journals that the commercial databases have that I think that is very complicated to measure only the sources that the commercial editors have, not all the sources that the universities use to reproduce and visibilize the research, etc. That's why we begin trying to make different kinds of metrics and forms of evaluation, not only community building metrics, communicability, visibility, formation of new scientists, specialization, geographical scope, access, founders, scientific information use. For example, for us, it's very important to measure journals, or not journals, more researchers that publish in different kind of journals and the scope that this publication generates about citations distributed in geographical situations, for example. That's why we begin to try to build a system near to this. Well, implementation and steps, only to compare, we have 2 million of products. OpenAlex for Colombia has 400,000 and Scopus to 90,000. As you see, we have a very strong and robust system of information. Well, this is the system that we have, our ecosystem in open databases, OpenAlex, the OAJ, like the information of Simago journal system, and mostly the information of institutions that participate in Impactu. We convert this in different entities and different types of products. We visualize this through the user stories metrics that we build with other universities, and we offer these databases open. Our ecosystem from COLAFAN, the association, national association, we have different projects with centers in Latin America and Europe and North America. Then we have some relations with different ministries in Latin America, universities that have collaborated with us, doing some research and tools useful to metrics. And we participate almost in all important spaces in Latin America in metrics and open science, basically. Criteria of success, basically transparent process in retrieving and curating information. This is very important not only for us, but all open academic infrastructures. Database usage, we measure this. Institutional information processing improved. All the processes to retrieve information help to the institutions to make better its information systems. Robustness on information, participation in cooperative projects is very important for us. Alliance expansion, because this is our sustainability strategy. New services, build new services, and infrastructure growing. All of this, I think, is about the principles of policy declaration, and we try to follow this. Well, finally, challenges. We have to improve the persistent identifiers information, because in open databases we have very big problems with curating information. Data curation is a common responsibility that we have to share with others, and we have to make relationships with this, with OpenAlex, with ROR, and other databases. Business model that change that market rules, how to make new models of business models to try to change the market rules, and improve the value over the research information offered by open academic infrastructures. Lessons: open is different from free. I think, Ignasi, the time it's out. Sorry. Well, I think that's it. I can close this. Open is different from free. Without a community is not possible. Responsible metrics aren't measures but decisions. A communitarian promise is not enough. They need solutions, services, and prestige is worth, and the ethics to measure prestige is our issue, I think. Well, thank you. I'm so sorry for delaying my presentation, but thank you for
No
listening.
problem. Gracias, Gabriel. Thank you very much. And we come back to Europe with Joeri Both from the Vrije University of Amsterdam. Joeri is the vice director at the University Library, and he leads the research support department, where he deals with open science, research data management, and research intelligence. He's also a member of the Dutch National Research Support Working Group of the Royal and University Libraries in Netherlands, and was involved in the drafting of the Barcelona Declaration. He is also involved in the Dutch National Research Portal that has been made through OpenAir. So, Joeri, the floor is yours.
Next slide. Okay, yeah, okay, there we go. So my name is Joeri Both. As I said, I was already introduced, but mostly my field is open science, research data management, and research intelligence. And our story at the Vrije Universiteit began in 2015 when we were talking about an occupation and a strike against the performance culture of science and education. So there was a lot of measurement with hardcore bibliometrics, and usually these were the conclusions about things like promotion and hiring of staff. This was an occupation at the other University of Amsterdam, and that started a spark and in time where there was a lot of discussion about transitioning and valuing of research. So the metric tide came out. The European Commission came out with a report on next generation metrics and of alt metrics. And in the Netherlands, the Rathenau Institute came up with a new protocol for evaluating the research. So there was a lot of buzz around how do we actually deal with valuing our research, and do we have a conversation and a narrative about that, or is it just hardcore bibliometrics? So we at the VU started a conversation internally about how can we show societal impact on societal relevant topics, because the university wanted to establish itself as a university where research is being done with a direct impact in society. So we talked about that, and first, what are those societally relevant topics? And the European Commission came out at that time with their 7 missions. And of course, the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN were also part of that discussion at that time. And we asked ourselves the question, what kind of research do we do within these societally relevant topics? And do they actually influence policy? And how does that policy influence research then again? And in 2017, the Aurora Universities Network, where my university, the VU, is part of, started a conversation about it as well. And we decided to work on the Sustainable Development Goals just because they are more internationally applicable instead of the European missions. And we also talked to this company, you might know them, Elsevier, about developing something together around these Sustainable Development Goals. We were already quite far ahead with a bibliometric approach to these Sustainable Development Goals. So the targets and indicators that were given in that in the goals, we did a lot of just text mining about them and see if we can build a dashboard around that. And at the same time, roughly the same time, we also did an analysis of the VU Cancer Center in Amsterdam, and they wanted to do a bibliometric analysis about how would they compare their cancer research to other universities in the Netherlands, but also some internationally acclaimed cancer centers. So that was the start for my team of research intelligence. And we worked on that in the Aurora group. And in December 2018, we had a running SDG model. For those of you who are interested, I included a QR code with a link to all the data and software code that we made. And you can use that if you want to have some more insights in that. But that was the situation at the end of 2018. Unfortunately, the cooperation with Elsevier didn't really pan out. They basically took a lot of the information that we shared and they built their own model. So the relationship between us and Elsevier was a bit soured, I would say, as you can imagine. And we started looking at, okay, what kind of services do we use and what do we pay for them? And at that time, we had Web of Science, we had Scopus. We did a pilot with Insights and with Cyvel, and at the end decided to contract Cyvel because it was easier for our researchers to use. We had a contract for Altmetric and for dimensions. The rankings we performed, of course, as well. There was a lot of time and effort going into that. So not, of course, monetary attention, but still a lot of work for us. And all in all, we spent about €500,000 of money on all these services. And for us, that led to the question, do we need another strategy in this? And we asked ourselves, what can we do ourselves? What can we already do? What can we do yet, or maybe should not do? And what are those new needs? And then also, what is the budget outlook? And so we decided at that time, as I said, we had Cyvel. We decided to discontinue our Cyvel contract and take 50K from that budget and use it to already steer toward open initiatives. So we started piloting OpenAlex and looked at OpenAir, but also seeing what kind of community things we could organize within the Netherlands, and just reinvest that money in something that isn't going to shareholders. So long story short, OpenAir and OpenAlex are now our default sources for doing bibliometric analysis. And this is a really nice example. This is the impact dashboard of this year, which Matthias and the team of Research Intelligence has led. And this is now based on OpenAlex data. And we did this before for the Universities of the Netherlands, which is our national association of the universities. We did this before with proprietary data, but now we really made a switch to open data. And again, I included a QR code here where you can just go to the website that they have and just click through it and see that it is just as good as the stuff that we did previously. So next year, we will discontinue our access to Web of Science from Clarivate. So this is the next part in discontinuing the proprietary services. And that's for us just a change in infrastructure that we use with a lot of caveats. So we explained why we stopped the contract for Web of Science. And the first reason is the signing of the Barcelona Declaration, which we did in 2014. And this is the first opportunity for us to discontinue Web of Science. And we really want to make a statement that this is the concrete move toward open infrastructure. Also because of the cost and financial considerations, our contract for Web of Science would go over €100,000 a year for us. And that is just something that we cannot really comprehend anymore within our budget. How do we explain this when there are already open alternatives available? So that's the decision that we made. And there we will also talk a lot about the assistance in finding alternative data sources, again, using Scopus, OpenAir, and OpenAlex, because the Scopus contract will run for a little bit longer. But we also organize workshops to help researchers make that transition. So yeah, I'll skip this because this is more explanation about the support that we give. So it's not just about infrastructure. We also need community, and we are going to need each other in this. So the signing of the Barcelona Declaration and joining the working groups that we have is our kind of effort to join in a broader community of making that transition. We also joined OpenAir, and I myself personally became a board member to just also show that we really want not just make a transition within ourselves in our own institute, but also as a broader community in making this change. There's still a lot of challenges to tackle. So with the discontinuation of Web of Science, we really have a problem with the systematic review, especially in the medical field that we do, because we did a lot of these searches in Web of Science in the past, and the reproducibility of these searches will come under stress, but also just the new searches, of course. Our School of Business and Economics relies heavily on journal citation reports to assess its researchers and potential new hires. That will be a problem. And in the future, when we want to discontinue the Scopus contract, we are also going to see how that revolves around automatically ingesting the information into Pure. So for us, the lessons learned, difficult to break through years of tradition with researchers. Web of Science is their golden standard. They don't want anything else. And this is something that you have to break through. It's also a continuous conversation about what open really means. Open is not free. The previous speaker also said that, Matthias. It's not free. You really need to invest the funding that you have for the proprietary databases into open if you want to make a good transition. On the other hand, also feeling comfortable with the uncomfort. This is new territory for all of us, slow steps, but in the right way forward. Personally broadening my horizons of research outside Europe. Also, La Referencia is a good example. I had not known about La Referencia before. I was delving into these open research infrastructures, and it really helped me understand a lot. But also about the research culture in other countries, where almost 90% of their research is published in their native language, and it's difficult to represent in these proprietary database. But also, it's a lot of fun. There's so much willingness and energy in this transition, and I'm really happy to be a part of that. And that's my presentation, Ignasi. Right on time.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Joeri.